Thank you, Pastor Dave. Appreciate it. Well, I'm on staff here at New Covenant, and I'm the director of an organization known as Up Before the Sun, S-O-N, Ministries and Charities. And we, one of our branches is known as Beds for Kids, and we give free beds to needy families. And at this point in time, we're right at about 18,000 people that we've placed, showing the tremendous poverty in our state. And I've come to see that poverty is not just financial, but spiritual. And that's a lot of what we're going to be talking about tonight. And I came across Toya Kaplan years ago at pretty much the beginning of what is now this organization. And I've tried to be available for them as much as possible. I don't want to make it sound like I'm a big part of this group, because I'm just kind of on the fringe. I'm a supporter, as you are, by being here tonight. And we're so excited that you're here, and I'm honored to be your moderator for tonight's presentation, as the nonprofit officially known as For the One presents this program called Vulnerable No More with the Fam. This is a new thing. We've done this before just for adults, but we've come to see the increasing need for our youth to know what's going on and to be involved. And we've come to believe that if your child or grandchild is old enough to have a cell phone or to ever be online by themselves, they need to be aware of all that's out there. So we're excited to get going. This event took a ton of work, months of time to put together. We're very grateful to all the volunteers, the sponsors, and donors who made it possible. But without a doubt, the most important people here tonight are you that have come to learn. And so our heart is for you to leave this room with a better understanding of how to protect your family, your friends, your neighbors, and everyone in your community that you have contact or influence with. The subject matter that we're covering holds a very special place in my heart. I have 4 children. They're all grown now. I have grandchildren, and every single one of them is at risk of their lives being severely damaged through exploitation. And I tell you, as we spread the word, educate our families, and save perhaps hundreds, but even if it's for the one, tonight is worth it. And we're so glad that by your presence, you're showing you already understand the importance of what we're about, or at least are willing to hear about it and learn about it. And my prayer is that our presentation tonight will help shine the light in the dark and evil places of this world, so that the human cockroaches who would harm or pollute our children will have to run and hide when they see us coming. Now, as we go throughout the night, there are just a couple of quick things in the way of housekeeping. If you just came in, we have asked everyone to please silence your cell phones. But also, if at any time during the program tonight you feel the need for personal prayer or counseling, please don't hesitate and don't be embarrassed. Nothing to be embarrassed about. We are here to be open and to be helpful. And we understand that some of the things we discuss, even though they're family friendly, might possibly trigger memories of your past or help you suddenly realize that what we're describing is happening to you or someone you love. And we have people standing by in the glassed-in area at the back of the room. Over there, you see the lights behind the glass. We call it our chapel. It's quiet, private, so you can have discussions or prayer time. You can feel free to walk back there at any moment during the program if you need. You'll also have time to hang around and go there afterwards, after the program, so that you can catch everything that goes on with the program and don't miss anything that is said. Toya Kaplan, I mentioned, she's the driving force of this group. She's not only the founder, but our leader, our teacher, our mentor, cheerleader, and pretty much mom of this big group. She is at a place in life where she could, if she chose, do nothing except live in comfort and peace and quiet. But admirably, she has dedicated all her free time to eradicating sexual trafficking and exploitation of our children. And interestingly enough, as you'll hear, she knows a lot about this, some from her own personal experience. But instead of hiding her hurt, she's willing to use it to prevent others from going through the same or similar situations needlessly. And we're going to hear from Toya in just a moment, but first, a short video. Let's take a look.
pile in. Here you go. There you go, sweetheart. I hope to have a good trip. I know you'll figure it out. Yeah.
Okay, everybody ready? Let's just breathe for a minute. I have a really dear friend that helps me get grounded all the time. And I did this at the last event. It's a big conversation. Let's just breathe for 1 second. It helps me, even if you don't want to. It's a lot. It is. But we're here to start normalizing conversations around this. And I want to take one quick minute to thank everybody that's live streaming. This is huge. We're so excited. It is the largest turnout ever. Online registrations, we've got people across the United States in every time zone watching this right now. So hey, big Texas hey from Toya. I did want to stop for a minute. I wore a jacket mainly because it makes me apparently look more professional. But I have a t-shirt. And I bought this on purpose, the reason being that we want to start all of this thinking none of us are terrified to buckle our children up. Not adults, not people with kids or without them. If there are kids in my car, I'm not backing out until they're buckled up. And so that's what we want to think about with this conversation, because it is big, and my sister and I were talking about it. Let's just say it's the elephant in the room. It's terrifying, and the fact that all of you are here right now is so hopeful to me, because this is our 4th free event. Whoop, whoop. So it's our 4th free event. Yes. And they didn't all look like this, so we're growing, and we're just so excited. I'm like, woo. We went to Legacy at the first one, and there's 5,000 seats, and I was like, I gotta go. There's 3 people in here. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so I'll get a little bit more serious. It does help me to kid, though. I mean, it's a heavy topic. Let's just, relax a little, right? So we have 6 kids, and 5 of those children, which becomes serious in a hurry, I actually drove with after they did their driving classes and their driving courses. And, that's a rule. You have to drive with your kids for 50 hours, some daytime, some nighttime. And it was terrifying, and I took it so seriously. But we didn't just trust the people that taught them there to instill the practice, the additional things they would need to learn. We took it upon ourselves to talk to them about what they should do and how they should react in every situation we could think of. And that was to mitigate further or more extreme damage or danger. We didn't tell them, you'll never drive. There are people out there that drink and drive, so you're not ever going to be allowed to drive. We're going to lock you in your room where you will forever live, and you won't get to experience any life whatsoever. Of course we didn't. We put our kids in their seatbelts. We drove with them. We practiced with them. We talked to them about slowing down and distracted driving. We covered, what the road conditions, the weather conditions. We worked with them on every level in ways that we knew would empower them to be protected. So this event, the 3 main things that we touch on this, other than to beginning to normalize these conversations, is to protect, empower, and prevent. Same thing when I drove with my kids. I was there to help protect them with information and practice. I didn't throw them out there onto the streets by themselves without any practice. And on that note, we don't throw them onto social media in a global world without putting seatbelts on our kids. And that's what we keep seeing, and we'll talk more about that later. We have to do the same thing. Nobody was embarrassed to talk to their children. Nobody thought for a minute when they buckled their toddler in, their 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then eventually their driver, their young person in your home that was going to start driving. So everything we do tonight, every single example, is that this is normal. It's normal to talk to these kids about this, and it's the very thing the predators hate. They hate it. I said it on every interview I could, so you may have heard it. This is what they hate. So thank you for being brave enough to be here and listen to this. So situational awareness is what kept getting downloaded. I've been preparing for almost a year, and so I have 5,000 notes at home, and you're getting this, just so that you know. I can't even tell you all the research I've done, all the, oh my gosh, when it gets down to statistics. By the way, you can't believe any of them, because child sexual exploitation is so underreported, just like sex trafficking. It's so underreported, and I know every time I talk about this, there's people in this room that may never have told somebody something that happened to them. So don't believe statistics or read them and go, it's a lot more. Just know that when you read statistics about this. So in your folders, which is basically homework for you, I scaled all of that research down to 4 pages. I can't even believe it. I kept sending them to my youngest daughter. All my kids are involved, by the way, on one level or another. All my daughters, but one is here, and that one's watching. I love you, wherever you are, which camera. Anyway, all of my children involved. I couldn't be more proud, but they believe in this cause, and they've been with me since Freedom House, which was the home we had for survivors of sex trafficking, and they are still with me now, assisting social media, and in every way you can imagine. And as a mother, I can't even believe what a gift that is to me. So why am I here? Steve made a little reference to the fact that I have my own story, and I've gotten better about it, but it took a minute to get used to talking about it, and I'll keep it brief. But my first memory of sexual assault and being abused was when I was 4. And that continued. I have family members, neighbors, older friends, a lot of older children, just different people speckled through my life. And I never told anyone until my stepfather did something. And when I did disclose that, nobody believed me. And it might have been because I was a little bit crazy anyway. But to be honest, when something like that happens to you when you're 4, you get a little crazy. You're so unsure of your own identity, and it really changes you so much. So I'm 63 now, and I'm living in my miracle. I'm on the other side of it, and it took really at least until I was probably about 30 for me to start getting better at all about the process. And I did go through some counseling. So I wanted to stop here to say, if you've had something happen to you, please don't let it just go. Please don't keep shoving it under and trying to ignore it. There is a road out. There are professionals that can help you. And I have run across both men and women in these years who have had some pretty awful things happen to them. And it really won't help anyone, especially you, if you don't talk about it and get on to your healing baby steps. You know, one step at a time. You really can live on the other side of that. So I encourage you to start the process. And secondly, because we have to be healthy for our children. And whether you ever have them or not, you're going to have children in your life. You'll have nieces, nephews, cousins, whatever the case is. You as a community, child-free or with children, you need to be healed and stronger so we can be stronger together. So I just encourage you, as scary as it can be, don't ignore it. Do talk about it. I've had strangers walk up to me when I was passing out the invitations to this event, and 2 of them were men that said, "What is it you're doing?" One was, believe it or not, massage envy, and I was standing up there going, "Can you put these in your break room?" You know, everywhere I went. And a guy came up to me and he goes, "What are you talking about?" And I told him about the event, and he said, I don't talk about it, but somebody did do something to me when I was a little boy, and he started tearing up again. So I only bring it up to say there's so many people, and I think a lot of times, especially our men, that won't talk about it because it's just so hard, and there's so much shame attached to it. And we're here as also to remove that. That's one thing I'm very bold about. We should not either take that in or put that on our children as shame. And I'll circle back to that. So we're going to go ahead and throw up that first, my only, I think. Hello. It's this in your notebook. It has the seatbelt. Okay, maybe I made that up, but it is in your notebook. All that work, y'all. So anyway, so it has a seatbelt on it, and we revisit there the whole protect, empower, and prevent thing I was talking about. We wanted to make it really bite-sized in the way that we address it, and that is that these buckle-up points, right, here we are again, keep your seatbelt on. These buckle-up points are to keep it really targeted, that we're here to protect our kids, we're here to empower them, and we're here to prevent. So you can see under protect, it talks about normalizing protective conversations in the home and community, and that, of course, is age-appropriate. You'll see out on one of the resource tables, and it's in your notebook, we have vetted some books ourselves, starting from age like 2 all the way through high school. Some books for you to have resources where you can begin to do your own homework, because I know where I am about my comfort level to talk to my grandkids. My daughter here, Rachel, her girls are now 9 and soon to be 7. And I'm going to tell you, I talk to them like all the time. I mean, I don't line them up and talk to them. I just wait till we're in a store or we're driving around the car or somebody gets too close, or, you know, we talk about things all the time. These books, which I had no idea before I started getting them ordered and reading them, there's got to be at least 30. And if you're like feeling like, I don't even know how to start a conversation with my 10-year-old, start researching some of those books, and you see in that resource page or 2 pages, it talks about what age they're for. It's like a cheat sheet, my favorite. So if you don't really know how to begin a conversation with your family or with your children, read those. And there are so many great books out there, so I encourage you to do that. It's one of the resources we wanted to make sure we had here for you. This next one is what I ended up deciding to do, because the whole topic of child sexual exploitation is so overwhelming. I went ahead and did it in a graph and a flow chart. And I did that after I saw Sound of Freedom. Who else saw Sound of Freedom? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It was so good. And we're still like, we didn't know it was coming out. And we were just planning this thing months and months ago, and then it came out. Worked out great for conversation, but this graph was birthed from that movie. And you'll see on the left-hand side there where it talks about, well, if you can get to yours, it talks about international trafficking. And that's really what the movie was about, that and child porn. And it's important, and it's on here. And so what we did in between is we just listed the flow chart of the things that we are seeing right now, the main things. And because there'll be somebody in here who goes, well, what about? We just made the main things, because our point is, no matter what's under that child sexual exploitation, in every case of sextortion, and it's only 7% kidnapping, y'all please protect your kids, be careful, talk to them about kidnapping and from their age-appropriate information. But let's don't stop there. I think that pedophiles and predators would love it if we just think kids are getting kidnapped all the time. Of 100% of the cases of child sexual exploitation, you guys, only 7% of those are kidnapping cases. Does that matter? You betcha. You bet. First time I knew I could kill somebody is when my oldest son was in his car seat and somebody got too close to him next to my car. I mean, even that. And they weren't even like coming at us. I just thought, oh, you're not kidnapping my son, and one of us is dying, and it's not going to be me. just so you know. And so I'm saying, mama bears, dad bears, uncles, cousins, grandparents, keep that guard up, but it's 7%. The more important number is the over 90% of the trusted, loved family, friends, neighbors, coaches. That's the number we need to focus on. So these cases of, and who's heard of sextortion? Has anybody heard it in the news or? Okay, and see, that's concerning for me because you do need to look into that, and I do have a little bit of an explanation. What is happening right now is that online, globally, it's not just like in your own state, although people will do it because where there's money to be made, 100% there's going to be people that are trying to do this. And so they're contacting people on social media and through apps, and they're pretending with fake profiles to be someone their age, close to it. Usually it's like the opposite sex, especially mid and high school. So a teenage boy will think he's speaking with this girl who's crazy about him, and then some pictures are exchanged, and then there's going to be bribery. If you don't send me more, or even if they've only got one, we're going to show your parents. Now we know how to access your friend on your friend groups. We're going to get that out to people if you don't give us this money. And I'm sure that our panel will discuss that a little bit more. But that's important for you to know because those kids think there's no road back. I spoke to 2 high school groups at the end of summer, and I said to them, I know there's people in the room right now, some of you have already done it. This is not the end for you because we're seeing the suicide rates have escalated so much. That is one of the most horrific things since COVID that we've seen, or I know about. In addition, there's, of course, child sex trafficking. And so you know, there are not child prostitutes. If you hear that on the news, we're still fighting it. Even by law, like legally, a child cannot be a prostitute. So it's personal for me because we had the house for 3 years, and that hurts those girls so badly that they've come out of being called that. So just a little side note, FYI. Child pornography, which is huge, and we are the largest or one of the largest producers and consumers of child porn in the United States. And then there's intrafamilia, child sexual exploitation and trafficking. And we have that a lot in New Mexico because of the level of poverty and addiction. Any state that has a lot of addiction and poverty, that's like the perfect storm. They're going to see a lot more of that, and it's heart-wrenching. But again, we're just looking at this as a flow chart. And then self-consumption, and those are those stories where, 40-year-old man drives to Utah and picks up a 12-year-old that was talking to him online. Most of those cases are people, at least what I've seen, who are it's for their own consumption, is the way that I word it. So in every one of those cases, you have a flow chart which goes down to either a man, a woman, a boy, or a girl, every single time. So as big as that conversation and as overwhelming as that conversation can feel, it comes down to either, in like 96% of cases, male, or the rest of it is a female. So that's what we're preparing our children for. That's who we're preparing them for. Instead of getting distracted by all the smoke and mirrors about how it's happening, because we need to know, it is important to know how they're coming at our kids. But we're preparing them for these human beings, so we need to teach them how they're acting, what they say, what they do, whether it's a friend, a neighbor, because when I was 4, that was a next door neighbor who was older. So we need to prepare our kids for those people. It's the behaviors that we really need to talk to them about. And there's a whole page on that in your notebook. So you can spend some time and go through that. I just want to make sure I don't miss anything important. So when kids are younger and the whole big stranger danger, who knows there's a shift in even the way we talk about it. Who's heard that it's tricky people now instead of stranger danger? Okay, I'm so glad you're here. So we're moving away from that because guess what? Over 90% of the cases, they're not strangers. So instead of looking off over here at who's strangers and stay away and don't talk to strangers, it's like, how do tricky strangers act? How do those people behave? What behavior are we watching for? And then beginning to even exercise that with your kids and your family. You know, when you come back from an event and go, what did you think about that new friend we met? Did they have any of those things that they did? Do you feel like they were safe adults? Begin to really grow them and stretch them in their own safety so that as they get older, they'll actually become more self-aware, or it's that situational awareness. So whether your child is driving behind the wheel of a car and you've already taught them what to do if the roads are wet, situational awareness, as your kids get older, you're doing that thing by preparing them for a male or a female and how are they going to behave. Again, whether they're a friend, family, older person, children, teachers, coaches, it's just we don't live in fear and never leave the house. We don't not drive and never go anywhere in the car. We prepare ourselves in advance so that we're a safe family. Our community is safer because we prepared our kids ahead of time. So our kids are counting on us, like 100%. If we don't talk to them about this, you guys, if we don't become more relaxed and practiced in the way we speak to them about this, the same way we would seatbelts. If the younger you start, as they are getting older, I mean, you'll see before long, they're reminding each other even. My sister pointed out where they'll tell on each other if their seatbelt's off. Oh, her seatbelt's not on yet. You know, my grandkids are like, well, I'm not moving anyway till you have them on, right? So we need to let them know that we're their safe place. They don't ever have to be afraid to tell us anything, not one thing. They need to know that we're there for them. It's what I work on my grandkids so hard. And don't expect your children to be adults. We fall for scams. We do. Even us grown-up adults. I did it recently. Somebody hijacked the Wells Fargo number, and that contact showed up on my phone. Did I believe them? Did I give them any information? But anyway, no, but I'm saying we fall for scams. Let's don't expect our kids to be more mature than we are. They're kids. So remind yourself about that. And also that we're here to help protect them. And that's what I tell my grandkids. We're here to work together. Our family, we work together. Our family protects each other. Our family can tell each other anything. We can talk about this, and we will believe you. And this is one of my biggest statistics in my research. Initially, I had it flipped in my brain, but 1 in 3 adults will not believe their child. 1 in 3. Makes me want to throw up. And probably because that's what happened to me, right? You know, is that I did finally disclose to try to make it stop, and that's usually why kids tell you they want it to stop. And if you won't believe them, what are they to do? And I can tell you it's a rough road from there. So believe your kids. Believe, as the adult in the room, believe them and remove shame. You tell that child, you're a child and it is never your fault. It is not your fault that that happened to you. It's not. So get them calmed down just immediately as soon as you can. And we'll do it together. We're going to go together and handle this. And yes, law enforcement's going to get involved. That's so important. We'll talk about that later as well. And address the fear now. We talked about the elephant in the room. If you discover, because I don't use the term if you catch, I say if you discover that something's happened that your child's been involved in, if you find out, if your child tells you, if you get a call from a neighbor or another child tells you something happened involving your child, just try right now to do a fire drill thing to get yourself ready. You know what? This could happen in our family. And as hard as that is, if we're not preparing ourselves in that way of going, you are going to be the support in this room, and I will be afraid. I know I will, but I'm going to be there for my child, and it'll help you too. It'll help you to breathe through it, to be grounded through it. Yes, you'll still be afraid. I get text messages all the time. My 14-year-old, my 12-year-old, this just happened with such and such. I'm like, so let's all of us breathe now and go, it could happen. Worst case scenario. So what am I to be in my child's life now? I'm their safe place. If I'm freaking out and screaming and yelling and running around, what's that going to do to our family and to the children in my lives? So I'm just saying, practice now. So we're about to roll into a panel segment, and I am so excited for you to hear these people talk. We've spent hours preparing. They've given their time to work with us on Zoom meetings and prepare ahead. I can't wait for you to hear the answers to some of your questions that you said and sent in. We have a short video first, but the next thing we're going to do is have our panel up. Thank you all.
Well, as we continue with our panel, I just wanted to add a little personal anecdote. Toya talked about how stranger danger has changed, but that worked so well, and this will too. When I was a little kid, my mom was constantly telling me about the ploys of the people that would try to snatch kids, to abuse them, to use them. And I was probably 8, 9 years old across the street, playing baseball, playing the catch with the kid across the street. And a guy pulled up in a car, nice-looking older gentleman. He looked just like Colonel Sanders. Even had a silly hat on. He said, "I just lost my little dog. Have you seen him?" "No, I haven't." "Well, would you mind hopping in the car and going to look with me around the neighborhood?" And boom, I clicked. That's exactly what my mom told me they would say. So this is the modern version of that. And we're very, very happy to share the information that the people we have up here on the stage are willing to share with us tonight. As she mentioned, the graphic that we talked about is in the packet. This is the one we're going to focus on during the conversation that you're about to see. And you can see we've got a Jeep and the different parts, the seat belt, which we've discussed, the driver, the headlights, the wheels, the rear mirror, the side mirror. And we'll go through these, and each person is going to take a portion of the conversation to reference their area of expertise and experience. And we want to get started. We do have some small bios in the packet. You may have already read a little bit about it, but we wanted to give everybody a chance to have about a minute each to explain who they are and why they're here, and we'll start with my friends, the Schroffs.
Hi, thank you guys so much for being here. Clay and Michelle Schroff, we run the Aspen Project, and basically we started in adoption care, moved into foster care, and then you realize that more things were needed. And this cop asked us to come help with what he was doing, and we moved into the Sheriff's Department Special Victims Unit, helping families stay together. And then since then, we've teamed with Focus on the Family, and we're doing parenting classes. All of that to be said is that we're weaving around making New Mexico the best place to be a kid. And we've done that with Toya since the very beginning, and what a pleasure it is just to be here in your all's presence.
And before you hand over the mic, you mentioned parenting experience. Could you guesstimate how many kids you've raised?
Well, we have 10 that have the name Schroff, but we've had about 43 that have come through our home.
Just a few here and there. Okay, just wanted to reference that. Thank you.
I'm Kyle Woods. I'm a lieutenant with the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Department. I'm that cop. And I can't say enough about what it means to have people in our community who will stand up for children in this way. So thank you all. I've been blessed to work with everyone on this panel in some capacity over my career. I've worked child exploitation, human trafficking, sex trafficking, crimes against children, and sex crimes for the better part of 10 years. Much of that work is now being done by people far more capable than me. I'm a father of 4 girls, 8 to 15, a husband, and to my best friend, my wife, and they are my why.
I'm Owen. I don't think this one's working.
There it goes.
I'm Owen Pena. I work for the Attorney General's office. I am the current New Mexico Internet Crimes Against Children Commander. I'm also the supervisor for the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. I'm just going to shorten it. When you hear me say ICAC, that's what that stands for. Me and Kyle are officers. We use everything as an acronym. So you'll hear me use some like National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. That's a mouthful. I'll just say NECMEC. So if you guys understand, that's just where I come from. I've been doing internet crimes against children for the last 15 years. I don't have any children living in my home, but I look at that I've protected your children for the last 15 years in multiple ways. Me and Kyle have taken down some of the worst people out there. We don't publicize it because we really can't, because we don't want the perpetrators out there seeing what we do. And I've had that great responsibility to have this platform to take down some of the worst people that are out there. And I've had one of the greatest opportunities to work with this guy that's right below me. This is Special Agent Joey. He is the only electronic detection canine in the state of New Mexico. We've had him for 5.5 years. He doesn't get, he's probably the most popular person in the Attorney General's office. But we've had them for 5.5 years. He's done super work out there. I always hear people talk about, hey, well, he's just a dog. This dog has put very bad people away in prison. So, and I've had the great opportunity.
And I can see he's excited to be here. Yeah. Taylor?
Good evening. My name is Tava Bryce, and I just wanted to thank you all that I already feel a part of this family, this community, and commend you that you're already on the path of bravery. And the fact that you're interested in this is so meaningful to me and to my sister, Toya. So my baby sister that I am so very proud of, and so blessed to be on the panel today as your regular person. I'm just going to be the regular person up here. But we're very blessed in Fayetteville, North Carolina. My husband and I founded a church there, Covenant Love Church, 32 years ago. And our youngest son is now the lead pastor there. We have 3 sons and 1 daughter. Everybody's married with now grandchildren. I have 11 now, so we just live a very blessed life there. You may have heard of Fort Bragg. That's there in Fayetteville. We're now Fort Liberty. We love that they've changed Fort Bragg to that name. But again, thank you for having me, and it's a privilege here to be a part of this community. She's still Toya.
Okay, so we're going to start with the discussions, and we're going to roughly work at about 5-minute segments here, but we want to give you all time to talk about your area of expertise. And Michelle and Clay, we've designated you as the drivers in the graphic that we had with the Jeep, thinking of it in a way that being the driver means that you're going to take control of the wheel of the vehicle and steer your life and the conversations with others. So we're wondering, what road or roads did you take along the way to give yourself permission to be a voice, to be able to be comfortable speaking into so many difficult situations?
You know, that's a hard question to actually answer, except that when you're going through life, if you make the decision to go forward and battle darkness, that God will nudge you down the roads that he wants you to travel. And what I found was, when I first met my wife, we talked about abuses that she had had, which, you know, you want to create justice. But we also serve a God that asks us to have compassion. So God nudges you down those roads. And as we work with foster and adoptive children, you realize that a lot of children, many, many children, have had abuses, and hurt people hurt people. So if we can break that chain, then perhaps we can give a child in the future a life that doesn't include those pains. You know, and then you start working with law enforcement, and you know, thank you both, because you wade through such thick darkness. Make sure when you see a police officer that you thank them, because the darkness that they see every day keeps me up at night. So the answer to that is God has nudged us down roads, either due to personal experience or the experience of having touched other people, and it flows into our life. And I serve a God that calls me to battle giants. And we are now in a pandemic of children being lured in to those dark places. But I'm going to let Michelle speak a little bit more to that.
Well, I think just, you know, living on the other side of those abuses have, it's empowered me, I believe, to walk with children and with adults, to just not live in that guilt and shame. And I think that that's my huge motivation to be in that driver's seat, is if I can walk with someone that has been through a traumatic or trauma in their life, traumatic experience in their life, that is going to deem them impotent, that I would be able to walk with them through that trial to come out of it on the other side, like I have, and like I've witnessed so many others.
Michelle, before you hand it over
Yeah.
again, what was it with you that helped you to break the cycle? Clay talked about hurt people,
Well,
hurt people.
a huge
It
part for
continues.
me was forgiveness. I really needed to forgive the person that had harmed me, and the multiple people. And it was amazing when the Lord had called me to that forgiveness, that it was just this huge burden that was lifted off of me. And when we had made the decision to foster children, because I was told I couldn't have kids, that you know, the Lord just kept placing kids in our pathway that had lived a life similar to mine. And I remember going to Clay and just saying, why? Why does God keep putting this in our path? And, you know, my husband wanted to just dismember people. And that also, I'm not a violent person. So I kept going, we can't dismember people, you know, we have to forgive. And that was something that we just felt strongly, that while we were fostering, that we didn't want to create enemies. You know, we didn't want the children to hate parents, so forgiveness for me is what really prompted me in that foster care, and being able to reach out to the families and create a healing environment for those children, because we knew that if it was like a cycle. You know, the parents had lived the same life, and they didn't know how to live differently. So for us, you know, we saw the addiction, we saw that perfect storm that Toya was talking about, and how it created this environment for children to just not thrive. And we knew that there had to be a break, there had to be a stop, and that's why we developed Zoe. It started as Project Zoe, and we decided it was just not going to be a project, it was going to just be Zoe. We were going to continue loving on and caring for young ladies that had been affected by abuse and trafficking. So, yeah.
Very good.
You know, just to finish with that, if you find yourself in that, there are people here who will help you.
Yeah.
But if we can stop it so that the event never happens, that's our goal.
Thank you very much. Owen, you're referenced as the headlights because you are so experienced at seeing online and lighting up what we call the darkness in this world. We call it evil. So what are some of the things that you're currently seeing online, and how should parents respond to protect their children if they see it or even suspect it?
So I live in the digital world of that, where all your kids are at and where your families are at. So we live in that world. We're always changing. Our headlights are, and it's a good analogy for what we do in the ICAC task force, is because we're always having to see what's coming. We always have to see what's the newest trend and they do change. They change incredibly. We've always realized that your children will not hang out where you guys hang out. That's why they moved from Facebook. The children used to be all over Facebook when Facebook first started. Parents then got on Facebook, and so they vacated it. It's the same thing now with TikTok. All these parents seem to think that they need to put out a video, and it's forcing them away. But what's even worse out there is these predators are also very attuned to what the children are doing. So just to give you guys some things, we're always working forwards. There's different organizations out there that can help you parents. Don't think and we're always moving forward. We're always increasing things. Some things I can't tell you about because we do use these tactics and these things to get to these predators, and we just don't want that out there. But what we're seeing is they move around a lot. They'll connect with them on one app somewhere or one site somewhere, but their main goal is to move them off that site. So what they're doing is they're telling the kid, hey, connect to me on Kik here, or Snapchat here, or here's my email, anywhere to force them off that they think we don't look at. Now, there's a good organization out there like I told you about. It's called NECMEC. And just to give you parents some understanding of what that is every electronic service provider by federal law is required to report when they see child sexual abuse materials. Toya called it child pornography. We want to get away from that word because pornography, there is legal pornography, so we just don't want to normalize it. We want to call it what it is. It is child sexual abuse materials, or CSAM is what we refer to it. You will not hear our agents or any of our people, or even any of our prosecutors refer to it as child pornography anymore. It is what it is, so we're calling it what it is, and you should too. It is that.
Would you say the term again for us?
Child sexual abuse materials, or CSAM is what we call it. So what we're seeing now is they're moving them to that. But again, NECMEC has all these electronic service providers see something that's either they're talking to kids in a sexual manner, or they're sextorting these children, or there's images of children, child sexual abuse materials being seen. By federal law, they're required to report it to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, or NECMEC. Then if there's any connection to New Mexico, they'll kick out what's called a cyber tip. And that cyber tip comes to us. And then we got agents, we have 61 different agencies out there that help us work these crimes. You don't necessarily see it, but we are working them on the background. Again, there's a lot of legal stuff that has to go into these search warrants and stuff like that, so it does take some time, but we are working it. What I would suggest to parents more than anything is do not destroy the evidence. That's the worst thing you could do for us, is on the police side, is if we show up and they're like, well, we deleted it or we broke the phone, don't do that. And and let me just tell you, there's something that I never thought I would see in my lifetime, and probably even Kyle would probably agree to that. Before, we used to show up to you, if we come to your house, tell you, hey, your child was putting this out on the internet. We would ask, or we would always just tell them, hey, once you post it, it's out there. There's no way we could take it down. We would have to destroy, shut down the internet to get it. Well, NECMEC created a program, and parents, if you have a pen, I'd write this down. It's takeitdown.necmec.org, and it's the word, just one solid word. It's takeitdown.necmec, and that's NC mec.org. And what we can do now is through their organization, you do it right from your phone. You put the image in there. It doesn't send the image. It sends a value of that image to NCMEC. NCMEC then contacts that site or that place, whether it was Snapchat or whatever, and then they could scrub it out from, and then they're requiring these Facebook, Snapchat, Kick, and stuff like that to actually scrub the image out. So I thought I would never see it in my time, and it's amazing what they're doing on the site. But that's help. So you're not like, oh, there's nothing I could do about it. But we do suggest, again, let me reiterate, don't destroy anything. Don't destroy the phone. And if we do happen to come knock to tell you, hey, your child has been putting this out on this, be understanding. Don't yell at them in front of us. Don't abuse them in front of us because you're going to go to jail. And here's where we require you all to help us. The only way this will ever change is, and me and Kyle were talking about it earlier, is if you hit these service providers that are allowing this to go on in their pocketbook. Right now, there's a law that doesn't allow anybody to sue. I don't know if you guys knew this. You can't sue a service provider. You can't sue Facebook. You can't sue them. But there are some things out there right now, and there's some acts that are out there right now where you as parents would be able to come back and sue Facebook and them. And that's the only way they're ever going to come into line is if you hit them in the pocketbook. Because these are multi-billion-dollar companies. And so if you have connections to a U.S. representative, a U.S. congressman, push your congressmen. And it's called Stop CSAM Act. And so push them to vote yes on it when it comes up, because that one act will allow you parents to go after these organizations that are basically preying on kids. Yeah. We create undercover chat personas, 12 years old, 11 years old, 13-year-old, boys or girls. We create these profiles, and they just allow it to happen. They let adults hit us up for sexual nature, and they just don't put a stop to it. But there's nothing right now we could do about it other than taking these guys down. On the sextortion side, we're starting to move a little bit more to that. We are now the FBI now has a task force in Nigeria that's taking a lot of these sextortion cases, and they actually had their first, they were actually able to extradite one of these sextortion people back to the United States to have him stand trial. It's the first one, so thanks, the FBI for that. But again, we do our work. Once we find out that it's in Nigeria, which is where a ton of them, the actual people are, there's generally a middleman. So what we've started doing is taking down the middleman to get to the main person in Nigeria. So again, we are working on it. Don't think all hope is lost, parents. Again, when we come knocking, just be understanding that we're not there if we're coming to talk to you about your child, just understand it's happening everywhere. I have always said I'm a child of the 70s and 80s. If I had the internet, I'd probably be doing the same thing. I'm not that's how they communicate. We don't understand is how it's in their life. And you just got to understand, we're there to help. We're here to help you. Again, if you need to report something, and you can report it anonymously, there's the report.cybertipline.com.org. We have stuff out on our table. If you guys want to talk to us afterwards, me and my agents are out there, and we can help you get to where you need to, or if you have any information. But just remember, we do need you to help by pushing legal. When there's something legal coming up, don't just be like, I don't want to pay attention to it, because it could affect your children. And the laws are and Kyle could talk about this too, and he's dealt with it a lot. The laws in this state are very soft on these type of crimes. So you need to be aware of what's going on in the state capitol and in the U.S.
Thank you very much. Toya, you sort of inspired the idea for this demonstration with the vehicle and the different portions of it when you talked about you wouldn't put your kids in a car without a seatbelt. And your vision, we know your goal is to protect your family, our families, by giving them tools to prevent these things that we're talking about, from human trafficking to sexploitation to all the different varieties that we're covering tonight, just like we protect our kids with the seatbelt. So what would you say is a balanced, effective way for parents to talk with this to their kids so that we don't frighten them away when they're too little or push them away when they're too cool as teenagers and don't want to hear about it because it's coming from mom and dad?
Well, the conversation came up when we were trying to figure out how to get more people to attend these. They were just terrified with the information, and so I was on the phone with Tava, who was talking to me about maybe if you came at it from a different perspective. Maybe if you talked about it in a less threatening, terrifying way. And that is really where that was birthed is, you know, nobody is terrified to talk about, you know, child safety and seatbelts. And it became just this aha moment. We saw it across our communities, both hers and mine, and I know our team has seen it. That is, if we talk in terms of this, people are a lot more likely to come into a conversation instead of shutting down. So back to the question, and really, I think that the younger you can start, the better, because just like seatbelts, I mean, they're born into that, right? But the younger you can begin to have these, and I say organic, but when things start to occur in the moment, that's when you talk to them about it, when it's a more natural moment to talk about it, or after they see a show, or even some of the cartoons and so on, to be able to go, did that person seem tricky to you? Did that seem like tricky? We talked about how people act tricky. Or did that person or thing make you feel funny? Do you think do you feel like your hands are sweaty? And there's a whole page on that in there too, by the way. Also, to Owen's point, there is, he sent a link, or the information for that app is in that folder so that you know. And if you didn't catch what he said about what child pornography, not called that, it's listed in the book as well with the proper term so that you can go there later. But really our goal is that the younger the better. The whole point is prevention. The whole point is to finally stop this from happening before it happens. So the younger you can start to your kids talking about this, reading a book with them, if that is the route you end up deciding to go on. But talking about it like you would anything else, that is our goal. Younger kids, they're easier because it's going to be more natural for them at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you have a mid or high schooler, it's going to be the, okay, how am I going to approach this child, because they're all different. But getting that brave thing to say, we are going to have to talk about some things. You know, you are older, and I've just discovered that there's ways that things are happening right now online. So I'm not about to rip your phone out of your hand, but we need to talk about some things. So as you do your research, and there's another page on the top apps that are really critically detrimental right now, and the app themselves many times are not the problem. It's the way is more so that the predators use them. So we're not screaming at our children, we don't trust you. We're saying, we don't trust the entire globe to have access to you. We don't. And so I love you, and you have an undeveloped brain right now, even if you don't say it that way. But until they're mid to older 20s, they do not have mature brains, and that is their decision-making part of their brain. So we cannot be, and that's the thing we've seen over and over again, and I know law enforcement has, that they're like, here's your phone. I mean, we've all done it, you know. It's like, here's your phone, happy birthday. It's like the commercial with the kids, or the video we did with our family. Those are our children, by the way, and our grandchildren. They wouldn't get in and plop a baby in their lap, and you just send them off on the road with no seatbelts on. That's what we're doing with those phones. That's what we're doing with tablets, and that's what we're doing with computers. So it is a slow process. You can't like burn the phones, burn the tablets, even though our fear knee-jerk reaction feels that should be our response. You just have to stop and say, we are going to start having some conversations about this. And yes, I'm the adult and I'm the parent in the family, and for your protection and because I love you. I used to tell my kids, I'm looking at Rachel, I'm like, I'm so sorry, but you were born into a family that loves you. So we're going to have some rules. Yes, we are. We can have those come to Jesus moments where you're like, I have to win right now because the world is after your kiddos, and we have to be the one that steps in. So anyway.
Before we follow up too much, Owen said something that caught my ear. Is warning our kids about leaving a main site and going to a private place the modern equivalent of don't get in the car with a stranger?
Yes, and it's in the grooming behaviors. There's another page about grooming behaviors. If they begin to ask your child, which frankly is really age appropriate for your mid and high school, but it's younger and younger, by the way, so start talking to your 6, 7, 8-year-olds. If somebody starts talking to you in the chat and they want you to leave, that first of all, if they start talking to you, and then how does that change? How does that become to be a question they shouldn't be asking you? What are the You're always in yellow. We use the term of the lights. We're always in yellow. We can't be ever in the green. Sorry, guys. You can't be in the green. We live in the yellow with our families, and that means that we're always paying attention, but the second they shift their conversation, the second they ask them to leave an app and go somewhere else to talk to them, that is the red light. And if you'll train them now that that's what that looks like, then when it does happen, that's the prevention element we're talking about. Instill them then where at least they can go, Mom and Dad just talked to me about that.
Perfect.
If I can say.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons why we love the seatbelt analogy, and Toya alluded to it, is because you don't want to wait until you're in a 10-car pileup, you know, which is what this can feel like. And when we're discussing all of these urgent matters and all of these scary, dark things that are out there. So organically, as little ones, it's if we began talking with in an organic nature in everyday conversation about body awareness and what I feel comfortable about and what I have permission to say yes or no to because this is my body. Those things from when they're little, as long as they're old enough to begin to pick up on some of those concepts, as parents, we want to say we understand it can make you feel uncomfortable. I was sharing a couple days ago, I got in trouble when I was a little girl for saying a cat had kittens. That's how much we didn't talk about sex or intimate things. But at the same time, we're realizing that you can't put these things off. You know, I remember, because I'm a pastor's wife and I'm a mentor mom with mothers of preschoolers, and so I've been doing that for a couple of decades. It's so funny. These moms will talk about anything and everything. They love to, but when they talk about discussing with their children about body parts and what's comfortable and what's not comfortable, they all just start shrinking back. And one of the things that we talked with Michelle about a few days ago was that a lot of times when we're struggling with a conversation, it's because we've had something happen personally ourselves, and how important it is as moms and dads, aunts and uncles, friends and so forth that know littles in our lives is to first get that help that both Michelle and Toya alluded to. That, you know, is realizing, okay, there's something that's making me uncomfortable around this subject, but I want my child to have the information that I wish I would have had. So building it into the conversation, again, why we love the analogy of a seatbelt is because, boy, you pop that thing on, and children love to know information to share with other kids. They don't have their seatbelt. You know, if you don't wear your seatbelt, this is going to happen to you. And so by informing your child, they're going to be quick to want to share with their friends the things that you're making so normal. You're normalizing. Don't wait till the 9-car pileup.
How would the lives of you and your sister been different if you had known what we're learning about tonight, or if you'd been comfortable in having these kinds of conversations back then?
I think it's a whole world of difference. Again, I'm 63, so hey, nobody talked about anything. We can talk about cats having kittens at our house. But we were from such a dysfunctional home, and there was so much other abuse going on anyway. A couple of things were told to Tava that actually did prevent her from getting into a couple of situations, which is great. I was ADHD and off climbing a tree or something, apparently, because I didn't get any of that. But I think that it is so imperative, and the lack of those conversations is, honestly, I believe, what worsened every situation I was in. It just wasn't talked about. So how awesome would that be for this generation, and then your children and your children's children, to be able to build this into how they grow up, you guys? I am so hopeful, you know, as soon as I began to see, because I didn't start having a shift till I was 20, I began to see that there was a road out, and not only like for myself, but I thought, I will never have this happen to my children. My children will not live like this and have this happen to them. What do I need to do to make sure that doesn't happen? And so even like, I'm so sorry that happened, but the fact that it did is why I'm here today. And so I'm going to thank God for that, because he didn't send it, but this is how he's used in my story. And so that's the power in it, is that if you will take even parts of this information and begin to go, I will get comfortable with this. I'm seatbelting my kids. I don't care if they're 17 years old. Right. We're going to have these conversations. So I can't speak about it enough. This could change the trajectory of your family and this generation. We can prevent some of this stuff.
And what about the rewards of finally talking yourself into having these hard conversations?
We've seen some of it in our household, and so we're glad to share this quickly, because we want to encourage you that as you do this, this is actually those predators' worst nightmare. Because as soon as your child knows, stop, you're in the red zone, no, stop, they're going to move on. Now, we want to inform as many other people as possible, but as loved ones of these littles, we want to be the ones who go ahead and put that standard into place. And so we're very, very pleased that that has happened in our own household. So starting with my children, I just decided the best thing to do, instead of the no, 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 wait until the very last minute to try to talk to them about the facts of life. I just thought, well, what if we just made this as common as, you know, how to wash your hands after you've come in from outdoor play, how to cover your mouth and when you've got to cough. Just talking it in such a relaxed way that as it's a part of a routine conversation, honestly, that's where they're more apt to come and talk to you when they're like this, just like they would do, you know, if they started feeling like they had a cold coming on. You know, I just don't feel right. So we have taught them to be aware of how they feel in certain situations. We don't try to force them into hugging everybody that comes into their zone. And especially now, even more with our grandchildren, it's hard because it feels like you're being impolite. But those children need to know if they don't feel comfortable, that they have the right to say, no, thank you, or no.
All right, thank you. Kyle, we are referring to you as the rear view mirror, our side mirrors, because we want you to show us how to watch for blind spots. So from your experience, what's a parent or grandparent best response when we discover predatory activity that is happening or has happened, or even if we're just even suspicious?
It's a great question, and I think the fact that we're talking about it helps us create a path mentally to know where to go when it does occur. I'll use the analogy, if you're on an airplane and you're traveling with children, when the gas, or it's not a gas mask, when the oxygen mask comes down, thankfully, it's oxygen, they'll tell you, parents, you put yours on first and then you apply it to your child. And what I'll say to you is, you need to stop and breathe. You're about to have to be the calm in your child's chaos. We will see children retract. We will see them pull back from disclosures. We'll see them recant disclosures because They don't feel supported and safe in their home. So the parent, you need to be the calm. If you're in chaos inside, I get it, but you have to display the calm to your child, number one. You then need to give yourself the authority to put up some barriers and to cut off the access that this perpetrator has. So when we see hands-on child abuse cases, again, where cases don't move forward is when families and parents don't believe their children, don't trust them, and then don't take steps to protect them. Well, online it's a similar matter. You are going to have to cut off the access to the child. And this is going to be terrifying for your child because perpetrators prey on fear and they use the what if. They have already told them, if you tell, this will happen. They've convinced them, as real as the sun is in the sky, that if they disclose, if they talk, this awful thing will occur. And your child will absolutely believe that will happen. So you will need to assure them. You will need to be patient and consistent in assuring them and then putting up those barriers and cutting that off. We don't take the hammer to the cell phone. We call local law enforcement and give it to them. But you have to be able to cut off access to the child. It's probably good and something we use in law enforcement when we're training new law enforcement officers about what might happen if you're in a shooting or in a fight for your life is we have them play it out. But they always win. Sometimes they're injured, but they always win. With your child, they're playing through all the what ifs. That's what drives the fear. Well, what if they do take the picture and send it to all of my friends? Play that conversation out with them. Okay, what if they do? We're still gonna love you. We're still gonna be here with you. The family and friends who love you are gonna be here with you. We can take this off the internet. It doesn't define you. Tomorrow, we're gonna continue to walk with you. You have to assure them of this because they are thinking about it, so you have to engage in this conversation and address some of the really hard what-ifs that they will have. So a better way to do that is to start now, prior to that event occurring. It starts with the dialogue of, okay, you're on Roblox, you're on whatever it is, an online gaming or some social media app or whatever it might be. Hey, what if someone starts a conversation with you that you don't know? What are you comfortable telling them? What are you not comfortable telling them? When we interact face-to-face, we innately learn what we can and can't trust someone with by the way they act. The problem is online, that is removed, and so now the child just feels it's safe. We have to teach them, hey, it's not okay if someone's asking you about where you go to school. Well, why not? Well, now they know where you are. Well, what does that matter? These are conversations that are good to have to bring them perspective. And it is the world they are growing up in. And so just saying you won't have social media, just saying you won't engage in this is just simply not a reality. Your child will engage in it with or without you. Right. So jump in, get to know the applications, and have the conversations ahead of time so that if it happens, you've created a pathway to say, okay, we can walk down this together, we're gonna be okay, and we're gonna walk through this together. You are okay. We've got you, we believe you. We're now gonna set up these barriers, we're gonna cut off access. Parents, they will, some of the really aggressive ones, Owen spoke about some of the offenders from out of country. They believe they are out of the reach of law enforcement, and they will get really aggressive with parents. We'll have parents who will get online and say, hey, we're reporting this to law enforcement, stop engaging with our children. And they will get vulgar and aggressive with the parents because they believe they are untouchable. You are also gonna have to be consistent and firm and recognize that whatever crazy what if they're presenting to you, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be all right. If a picture is sent out afterwards, you can walk down that road with your child, and on the backside of it, they can then be stronger to talk to some of the other kids around them. You as a family can support some of your community.
Owen, follow up on that?
Yeah, to talk what Kyle was talking about, get to know the apps. As parents, you need to know the apps. You need to know where your kids are. You need to know your own phone. I would hate to say probably 80–90% of you guys are Apple users, right? Raise some hands. Who's Apple user? Who's got an iPhone? Do you know that even if you put that in airplane mode, it's not in airplane mode? You can still get it. You can still get stuff sent to it, and there's so many different ways to hide what they're doing in an iPhone. It's not, but you just need to get to know your phone and get to know their phone, get to know what apps. I'm sure none of you, we actually have a program where we take 25 iPads that we've loaded up with all the current apps, and we teach parents how to work in those apps. We have those programs out there. So that's where it starts, is that the parents need to know. Parents, raise hands if you have TikTok. Come on, don't be shy, I know you guys do. Did you all know that you can pair your TikTok account to your child's TikTok account? It's a new feature they came out with. It's a thing also to know. That's what you need to know, is you could pair that, so anything they do, anything they send out, anything that comes in, you're gonna see it. Again, that was us pushing TikTok, law enforcement pushing TikTok, saying, hey, you need to do stuff to help monitor this stuff.
That'll get our kids off TikTok. Nothing else
Right.
wrong, huh?
There's some programs that are starting to shut down because it's just not financially. Generally, when you see an app shut down, it's because it just wasn't financially viable. Again, it's all about the money for them. But you just need to know, again, to piggyback on Kyle, what your kids are doing on these apps, how these apps work. Again, you can reach out to our office, to our website, and you can request this training. If you guys are part of a school board or a PTA or a church or whatever, and you want us to bring this training to you, we will. Now, I will say we're very small, but we'll get around to you. It is one of our more popular programs. So it's just letting you know you need to get out there. You need to know what your kids are on, where they are. Just be more in touch with what your children are at. Again, don't destroy anything like Kyle says. We're not here. We're never going to come. I'm just going to tell you right now, we're never going to come and arrest your child. We're not going to do that. If they send something out, we're not going to come and arrest them. We know that childs generally don't want to give up their phone to us. So what we did is we found digitally sound equipment that where we could just look at the phone, look at the certain apps that they're using, and pull that information out without taking their phone. So we have come a long way where we're just not, well, we got to take your phone, and that child loses their life. So what we just want you to know is we have that. You can either bring them into us, we can come out to you, we can pull what we need to go after the perpetrator, and leave the phone there. So it's come a long way. Just be aware of where your kids are. That's where it starts. Again, have that conversation with your kid. I'm not here to get on you about it, but where are you at? Where are you going? You don't shut them off because, again, like Kyle said, you're going to ruin their life is that phone. And I do say phone because laptops and that are pretty much gone because they're carrying a laptop in their hand. So just be aware of where they are.
Thank you. Michelle and Clay, you guys have a lifestyle of setting boundaries. He mentioned barriers, and I think boundaries are a little bit different if I understand it right, but you have boundaries in a lot of different settings. Tell us some of the tools or examples of what boundaries would look like in your family.
Well, we have a lot, let's just say. You know, I actually really like the protect, empower, prevent model that Toya has, because when I think of how we've chosen to go about technology and even just body safety and those things, you know, we look at how do we protect our kids. And the first thing that we have done with our children is we try so hard to minimize technology so much. We try to devalue it. We try not to make it their life, you know? So with us, we prolong technology. You know, the kids have to use device, you know, iPads or whatever for school, and that is done in a common area. So number one, any type of interaction online is done in a common area. We collect iPads, everything, every single night. They come to, they are in our bedroom, you know, try to come in our room. Clay's ex-military, he wakes up at the, there's no way, you know. But for our family, this is what has been successful. And we have kind of a tier system when it comes to technology. You know, you need to show us how responsible you are. We need to be able to look at your character before we can give you something like this, not because you're gonna mess up, but that you're gonna be able to come and tell us. You're gonna be responsible enough to say, I'm in danger, this is happening. And we talk about all the things, you know, we talk about it all. If there's a news story, we talk about it. We talk about what they could do. What if it was you? What could you have done differently? You know, we process, we talk. I mean, like normalizing, oh my goodness, my kids are probably sick and tired of talking about it, but they have great ideas. You know, well, why doesn't the parents just take the phone? You know, why don't the kid? And I'm like, well, you know, I don't know. But, you know, making them feel like they're horrible because they want to see things or because they're curious. You know, we try really hard to understand that they're kids. And you know, that part of the brain isn't developed, so we try not to give them too much. And we've lived a life of, you know, really following that scripture that talks about, you know, causing one of these little ones to stumble is like tying a millstone around your neck and being tossed into the depths of the sea. For us, I mean, I think of a cell phone as being that stumbling block. I think of devices as being that stumbling block for a child. And for me to give that, knowing full and well that it is going to cause them to stumble is just not wise for our family. So we prolong it. So we have a tier system. We do hands-on, then we allow an Apple Watch when they're a teenager. And that means anywhere from 13 to 16. That doesn't mean 13, you get a watch. It means 13, we talk about it. You know, we say this is what's allowed, this is what's not allowed. You know, it's the little contract thing we have going. You violate the contract, then we have to take it back until we can see that there's maturity happening. You know, could they be looking at friends? Yes, absolutely. Can they be going to people's house? Yes. But we want to do everything that we can do in our power. And that's all we can do. You know, and that's something else that I want to let everyone know. You know, when you can only do what you can do. You can do all the things, and something can still happen. It's not a matter of if. We truly believe it's a matter of when. There's something that's going to come up, and we need to be prepared as parents on what we're going to do to empower our kids when it does happen. Are they able to say, no, don't do that, don't touch me, don't talk to me like that, don't use those words with me? Because we do know that 90% of the abuse that's happening is coming from people that these children know. And the reality is, for me, that was the case. It was someone I knew. And I wasn't empowered. I wasn't told that I could tell this person, leave me alone. Don't touch me. Don't look at me. Don't say those things to me. You know, we're kind of crazy with our kids. You know, we tell our kids, you can cuss them out to get them away from you. You can do whatever it takes. We just recently had a birthday party at a restaurant, and my 15-year-old daughter had noticed there was a man across the room that was winking at her. And I didn't know. She didn't say anything. She was sitting a few seats away from me. So we got up to leave, and I'm like, where's my daughter? You know, and I look, and she is leaning over into him, yelling at this guy, like, do not wink at me. And he's yelling back at her, I had something in my eye, you know? And the entire restaurant is looking at this guy, and we ended up going to the manager, telling them, hey, he's over here winking at my teenage daughter, you know? So just empowering our kids to say, absolutely not, absolutely not. And then, of course, the prevention. You know, we talk about, the seat belt and the driver's seat and this car analogy. I think of defensive driving. You know, when you were in driver's training, what did they teach you? Okay, well, what if someone steps out in the road? What are you going to do? What are you going to do if someone runs a red light and you have the green light? Well, you always look before you go on a green light, right? Everybody does that. So I think of that with my kids. Well, what if? What if the neighbor who we've known all of your life tells you, hey, if you want to come over and have a beer with me, I won't tell your mom. Well, oh no, we don't keep secrets at my house. We only keep surprises. We don't keep secrets. So we give them the verbiage. We give them the things that they would say to someone when they feel like that tricky person, that this doesn't feel right. And my kids will get in the car and tell me, you know, that person, I did not like that person. And why? Well, you know, they wanted to sit really close to me and they were breathing on me. And I'm like, yeah, I don't like that either. Next time, stay away, or you know what, I'll have a conversation. And we've spoken to people and said, hey, you know, you made my kid feel really uncomfortable. You know, one time Clamus fought someone because they were goofing with one of our kids, and he was like, hey, adults don't play with little kids like that, you know? But we have to get out of our comfort zone, and we have to stand in front of our kids, and that's kind of like the way we've had to live. And we feel like, for me, I feel vindicated. You know, for the things that have happened in my life, I feel like the things that I wish I knew, I'm going to tell. I'm going to share with my kids, my grandchildren, you know, and you won't regret it. You won't regret it. It's hard to do the first time. The second time, it's a lot easier, and it gets easier as you go. It gets easier to talk to your kids, have those difficult conversations.
Thank you. Kyle, you know, she talked about watching out, being defensive, and going back to the mirror analogy, checking our mirrors to see what's coming up on us. Predators, we talk about them. What kind of common things can we look for? Not just on the internet, but she's talking about neighbors, friends, even family. Are there common factors in this group of people?
There are, and first we need to stop and just say that if we're going to talk about predators, statistically speaking, there's some in here and online watching this. They are in our churches, in our children's care. They are in our law enforcement. They are in our government. They are in our school systems, and they are in our families. And what perpetrators do is they exploit trust and access, and then they leverage that. They use fear to separate and alienate children out in particular, to then prey upon them. So the reason, statistically speaking, hands-on offenders are family members or close relationships to the children that they prey upon is because we as a society give trust to our family. We give trust to these people that we believe are good. What you need to understand about perpetrators is that this is also usually very shameful for them. It's something they obsess about. It's something that consumes their thoughts, and so they are looking for opportunities, but they are fully aware that this is not accepted in society, and so they put on a good front. So you need to give yourself permission to have that conversation with your kids. You need to recognize that yourself. We can be kind and courteous to everyone, but not entirely trust them, and not just say, yeah, my kid can come hang out with you wherever. And so that's in person, we do that. We don't walk into a stranger's home or into someone's house we just met where we know they have older kids. Let's say you have a 5-year-old daughter and you know there's going to be 18, 19, 20-year-old kids playing in another part of the house room. We don't say, yeah, go over there and hang out. We don't do that. But online, where do we put these boundaries up? It starts in the conversation. It starts in the dialogue with the kids about the fact that you will have people who will engage you, who will try to separate you out. So understand that. We don't have to treat everybody as villains just because we recognize there may be perpetrators in and amongst our midst, but we should be wise to it. And we can live informed, and we can allow ourselves to put some boundaries up. So In my family, we've talked about my girls don't go stay at someone's house if the dad is going to be the only one there, even if I grew up with the dad. My best friend, I would not allow our kids to go stay at his house if he were going to be the only one there, nor would I expect someone to have their kids come stay at my house if I'm the only one there. Sorry, guys, you're not trustworthy, statistically speaking. You're just not, so get over it. The wife should be there as well. These are things that we would do to put parameters around our kids and protect them. And then we need to have the conversation, and we need to put practices in place. I've spoken at conferences for churches where they have security teams, and I've pointed out that if we are automatically trusting our volunteers within our churches, we are setting our kids up for failure. It is absolutely right that we should put some things in practice, like men should not be the only ones in a classroom with kids. That's foolishness. It shouldn't take place. It just shouldn't. And so we should have parameters, men. If they're around kids that are hanging out in a classroom and it's young kids who have to be escorted to the bathroom, they should not be the ones doing this. These are common things that we could put into place. So when it comes to online activity, you need to understand perpetrators exploit the fact that, as I said before, they are not in front of you and your child where you can judge them based on the way they're behaving, and they will use that screen of the internet to build trust with your child. The only way we can teach them how to do that is, how do you engage online? What does that conversation look like? Why are we communicating with people that we don't know in real life? Doing a tiered approach with your kids from a young age to building the trust. The idea is that they should be self-reliant by the time they're in their mid to late teens, and they should be able to recognize this. They should be able to put parameters around themselves that will protect them, but you have to walk them to that. So the challenge is, if you have not been one who grew up in this world, in this paradigm where you were fully engaged online, it's time to dive in. You have to walk your kid through that. You have to be in the passenger seat while they're driving to coach them. And so you have to dive in and you have to get engaged and involved.
Thank you very much. Excellent information. Toya, talk about discomfort. Has come up quite a bit. How do we get past this taboo barrier in our minds that so often keeps us from talking with our kids, from bringing it up?
Just to come to terms with where the root of it is. I'll keep it super short because I want to be respectful. Come to terms where your discomfort is. Is it because you don't know enough about it? Is it because something's happened to you in your past? And then insist on educating yourself. Just, you are so going to learn, and you're going to figure out how to talk to these kids. So if you need to get healing and go to counseling, do that. You just have to insist. We can't not talk to our kids about this.
Okay, we want to wrap up here. Sorry we've run so long this evening, folks, but I would like just one question that we'll go through the whole panel with. I'd like you to each answer briefly, if you would, please. But with your knowledge and with your experience that you have, what's the one thing you want our audience members to take home tonight? Toya, we'll start with you.
I've been saying it nonstop. Just start tonight. You're going to wake up tomorrow, and you're going to start having hard conversations with your kids and in your home and in the community. We need to talk to each other, too.
I'd say if you look around the room, and you wouldn't probably know this, but thousands of invitations have gone out. And it's obvious that it's a very scary conversation. But as much as you are, like Toya said, willing to be brave in your own home, I think it's going to provide for all of us a new level of comfort and mutual support. So I encourage you to take the bravery that you brought into this house and online tonight and just make that part of your conversation with all that you know, your friends and your family.
Thank you. Owen?
I would say use the internet to your advantage. Go out there, get educated yourself on all the different things out there. There are so many things out there to help you. There are different organizations and everything. So what I would suggest is use the internet to help us help you also. and get involved in your legislation. Do not just think just because the law is how it is, you guys can't affect the change of the law. We need you to help us. Law enforcement, we can only do so much. When it gets to the judicial side of it, we are stuck at what we can do. Don't always think we're not doing our job, or we're not helping you, or we can't do. We only can do what our legislation lets us do. Get involved. And I would like to put this out to all you children that have also get involved with your legislation. Also find out if these laws do protect you. Currently, they don't, and that's nationwide. So you need to get involved. You need to be a voice to tell all these people that you do vote in to do protect your children.
Thank you. Kyle?
I'd say don't live in fear, live informed, and then walk confident in that. And then the second thing I would say is that if you are one of the small percent that's either in this room or watching online who is consumed with the thoughts about harming a child, go get help now. Go seek help. Go to a counselor now. Go to a therapist now. Go discuss it. If you've been harmed yourself and those thoughts are in your mind, go get help now. Because when we hit your house with a warrant and we put you in cuffs and we bring you before a judge, they are going to say, is this person amicable to treatment, and they're going to seek services. You can do that now and not harm a child.
Number one, you need to be communicating with your kids. And then number two is you need to be unshockable with what your kids tell you. So you need to prepare mentally for what your kids are going to say. And then you got to be unshockable. Number two, or that would be number three, right? Yeah. Is that you're the parent. You're not your child's friend until they're adults. So take control of your families. You're in charge of their social media. You're in charge if they have a cell phone. And there have been times in my life that my kids have hated me. But it was to protect them. And when they become adults and they become your friends, they'll appreciate it.
That was good.
I stole it from you.
I would definitely say protect your kids. Protect them. And the best way to protect them is to inform them and to encourage them and listen to them. Listen to what they're saying. If they seem lonely, if they seem like they need a friend or they need something, or be that for them.
Woo, wasn't that good? I was like, oh my gosh. I was like looking at them all. You. That's so good. We just appreciate you guys so much. Thank you. Thank you for coming. It was so valuable. We always go a little long with panels because it's such great information. So thank you. I guess we'll let y'all head on back to your seats. Aren't they great? You got to get up now. Steve, he's like, gotta move. And I'll just take a quick few moments. I took on the ask this time. I'm a big chicken. For whatever reason, I hate doing this part. But I'm going to learn to love it because this matters because the kids do. So I have these matches, and we have another slide. Here I am lying again. Okay. Well, basically, yes. But it's really what my T-shirt's saying. I mean, we can choose to either be complacent and continue to look at these numbers and, oh no, and so awful. This is one of the things we can do something about. We can change these numbers by causing prevention. So I have this personality where I'm like, I've got matches. Let's go. We ride at dawn. We have an upcoming event in 2024 we're already planning for, y'all. We need help. We need finances. We need your support. And we are building a community of people that will join hand in hand together and fight with us. Fight with us. Help us help our children. And it takes money to do that. This is a social injustice across the board that our children are prey to these predators day and night. Let's do something about it. For the first time, I have hope that we can make a change. And so I'm asking you to partner with us. This is the thing that predators hate, what we're doing right here, right now. And if you want to be part of something bigger than yourselves, you want to help with this thing that we're doing now, please help us support. Scan to Give. There's envelopes in your packet. But participate. What is our child, our children, these children, what are they worth? What are they worth? And it could be your time. If you don't have money, volunteer. Help us out. You know, that didn't cost a lot of money. We've got a fierce group of volunteer. We couldn't do it without them. Do that. What if we got there first? That's the thing that keeps me awake sometimes. What if we got to them before the predators did? Y'all join us, and let's do that together. Take this information tonight. Go out into your community. Spread the word with people. This will be a shareable YouTube video when you leave here. This is something you can share with your friends beyond yourself. If you got family that didn't make it, send it to them. You'll be able to do it probably starting in the next couple of days. We have a 5th annual Christmas drive. We help survivors of sex trafficking for Christmas, for their families, that they'll have Christmas with their families. That's where your money will go. It'll go to that. It'll go to our 2024 event, and it will replenish money to help our survivors when they're in crisis. So we still work with Phase 3 sex trafficking survivors. Help us help them. I hope that you'll join us, stand with us, and I've got matches. We ride at dawn. Y'all join us. We love you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. Just want to remind everybody that counseling is available in the back in the chapel over here. We still have displays out in the front, and you're welcome to linger, to make some friends, to spend some time. Spread the word. Tell your friends, your co-workers, your family what you heard, what you learned tonight, and help us continue in this drive. Take some time to really enjoy your life tonight, everybody, and may God bless. Thank you.